Okay, let's dive into something that might seem a little strange at first. A real strategic puzzle from the world of nonprofits. We're going to talk about why some of India's most amazing charities are setting up shop, thousands and thousands of miles away in the United States. It sounds kind of backwards, right? But it's actually a brilliant move to build this powerful global bridge for support.
So let's just start with that big question. It really makes you think. Why would a nonprofit whose entire mission is on the ground in India go through all the trouble and, let's be honest, all the expense of setting up an office in America? What's the deal? What is the strategic advantage of stretching across entire continents?
Well, the answer in a nutshell is that they are building a bridge. And I'm not just being poetic here. It's a real, carefully constructed channel for money, for support, for awareness to flow from one of the world's biggest philanthropic communities, the US, directly to the incredible work being done in India. So let's take a closer look at the foundation of this bridge. What makes it so appealing for donors in the US to even want to cross it? Well, it all boils down to one simple but incredibly powerful incentive.
And here it is, tax deductions. Yep, that's the single biggest reason. It's the ability to offer a tax write-off to American donors. For both people and companies in the US, being able to deduct a charitable donation is a massive, massive motivator. It just makes giving easier, more affordable, and that seriously increases the chances they'll contribute. And look, this isn't just some theory. It's a proven global strategy. It's actually a pretty common practice for top Indian nonprofits. They're tapping into generosity not just in the US, but in places like the UK, the Netherlands, and Singapore too. Okay, so if giving tax deductions is the goal, what's the actual tool they use to build this bridge? It comes down to a very specific and very powerful US nonprofit designation. And this is it, the 501c3. For anyone not familiar with U.S. nonprofit law, this thing is the gold standard. It's the official stamp of approval from the IRS, that's the U.S. tax agency, that says, yep, this organization is a legit tax-exempt charity, which is what makes those donations tax-deductible for the donor. Now, here's a super important legal point to get your head around. The U.S. 501c3 is not just a branch office of the Indian organization. No way. It is a completely separate, legally independent American nonprofit. They're designed to be partners for sure, but legally, that U.S. entity stands on its own 2 feet. And this separation is totally key to how it all works. So you've got the Indian NPO, which is governed by Indian law, and it's 100% focused on delivering the mission on the ground. Then, on the other side of the bridge, you've got the U.S. 501c3. It's governed by U.S. law, and its main job is fundraising and building that support network. They're 2 different organizations working in perfect sync. So that's the why and the what. But how does an Indian NPO actually do this? What's the blueprint for building this global presence? Let's walk through the key steps. First up, just a quick reality check on the timing here. This is not an overnight thing. Not at all. After you submit the application to the IRS, you can expect to wait around 9 months for that all-important 501c3 approval. Yeah, that's a long time to wait, so planning and patience are absolutely essential. Okay, here's the roadmap. It all kicks off with legally incorporating in a U.S. state. A lot of organizations pick Delaware because its corporate laws are so well established. Then comes the biggest step of all, filing what's called Form 1023 with the IRS. That's the actual application for 501c3 status. While that's processing, the organization builds its own foundation. They draft bylaws, which are basically its internal rulebook, and they appoint an independent board of directors. Once that board is in place, they have their first meeting to make it all official, and then it's just a matter of grabbing any final local permits to be fully up and running. So after all that work, the legal stuff, the waiting, getting a board together, what's the actual payoff? And maybe, more importantly, is there a catch? Let's look at the huge benefits and the one final hurdle that everyone has to know about. The crucial thing to realize here is that this is about so much more than just money. I mean, yeah, the fundraising is key, but setting up a U.S. entity builds a true global network. It creates a base of dedicated supporters and ambassadors in the U.S., it opens doors to new strategic partners and allies, and it ultimately expands the organization's global presence and impact way beyond what it could ever achieve on its own. It all sounds pretty great, doesn't it? The U.S. entity is raising money from happy, tax-motivated donors, and it's building a powerful network at the same time. But there is one final, absolutely critical step to actually get those funds to where they need to go. And this is it. This is the catch. The Indian NPO must be registered under the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act, or FCRA. This is an Indian government rule that controls how nonprofits can receive money from other countries. Without that FCRA approval, the U.S. 501c3 literally cannot legally wire transfer the money it raised to its partner in India. It is the final, non-negotiable key that unlocks that whole bridge.
So we end on this thought. This whole process just goes to show you how connected our world really is. To make the biggest difference locally, organizations are finding out they have to think and act globally. It brings up a really fascinating question for the future of giving, right? Is a global footprint no longer just a choice, but an absolute necessity for making a deep local impact? Thanks for digging into all that with us.